Why don't we find a body? In a world where thousands report encounters, where footprints, sounds, and sightings add up year after year, why is there never a body? No remains, no bones, nothing. To understand the mystery, we have to step back and look at the land itself. Ontario is one of the largest and most rugged regions in North America. Ontario covers 1,076,395 square kilometers, larger than France or Texas. That's a massive landmass of forests, water, and rock, and yet nearly all of us live in a very small portion of it. More than 90% of Ontario's population lives in the southern 8% of the province, along the Great Lakes, where the land is flat, fertile, and buildable. The rest, 92%? Well, let's take a look. Ontario contains roughly 70 million hectares of forest, among the largest forest system in North America. Much of that is the Canadian Shield, a massive slab of ancient rock, billions of years old, carved by glaciers, covered in thin soil and deep tangled forests. And water? It's everywhere. 250,000 lakes, tens of thousands of rivers, streams, and wetlands. Ontario alone contains nearly 1/5 of the world's fresh surface water. This isn't parkland. This is wild, inhospitable, unbroken terrain, hard to build on, hard to travel through, places people rarely go, if ever go. In the boreal north, there are places where people could walk for days and never cross a road, trail, or any sign of human life. If a creature wanted to live undisturbed, this is where it would be. While Ontario is enormous, its people are not. About 94% of Ontario's population lives in the south, clustered around the Great Lakes and along the St. Lawrence corridor. By contrast, much of northern Ontario, despite being hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, has density at less than 1 person per square kilometer. Put simply, most of the land is empty, not farmed, not built, not traveled every day. When people ask, why don't we see them more often? They often imagine a forest as a pleasant hiking trail, something tame. In the boreal forest and shield, there are no grid roads, no straight paths, no well-worn trails. Just wild terrain. Bogs and muskegs, endless lakes and islands, rocky ridges and dense tree cover. Now imagine something that knows the forest better than we do. A creature that grew up here, that doesn't rely on roads, that can travel silently through terrain humans avoid. It wouldn't need to be a master of stealth. The environment itself would hide it. And yes, they may occasionally come close to towns, cabins, or roads, but the wilderness is where they thrive, and the wilderness is where we are not. Now back to the question, why don't we find a body? In the boreal forest, nature erases things quickly. Insects, bacteria, acid soil, and constant moisture begins working within hours of death. In warm conditions, visible decomposition can begin in as little time as 24 to 72 hours. Within days, insects lay thousands of eggs. Within weeks, soft tissues can be largely gone. And bones don't last long in wetlands. They sink into peat moss. They're scattered by scavengers, cracked by freeze and thaw cycles, or slowly broken down by acid soil until they simply return to the earth. And scavengers don't leave remains behind. Foxes, coyotes, bears, even birds, they scatter bones far and wide. The forest doesn't keep things in one place. Researchers have shown that even large animals, moose, deer, even cougars can disappear almost entirely within a matter of months once they die in deep forest. Most hunters, hikers, campers, and outdoorsmen can spend decades in the wilderness without ever stumbling across the complete skeleton of a cougar, despite cougars being a proven predator across North America. Even moose, animals weighing over 1,000 pounds, rarely remain intact for long after death in remote terrain. Scavengers scatter the bones. Moisture and acid soil breaks them down. Moss, insects, wetlands, and the forest itself slowly reclaims what remains. We rarely find their bones, we rarely find their remains, and these are animals we know exist. So, imagine a creature that dies in deep, inaccessible terrain, whether it's buried naturally under a brush, consumed by scavengers, or lost in endless wetland. Its remain would be nearly impossible to find. But perhaps the real mystery isn't just the forest itself, but the relationship between people and the wilderness. And there is something else, something we'll save for its own episode. When people think about Ontario, they often imagine endless wilderness. And while that wilderness absolutely exists, most people rarely enter it. Ontario has over 300 provincial parks, along with national parks, conservation areas, and countless recreational trails visited by millions every year. But these places are highly segmented, structured, traveled. Most visitors remain close to roads, campsites, beaches, marked trails, and populated recreational zones. And many people traveling in southern Ontario, especially in large urban centers like Toronto, may never truly enter the deep northern wilderness at all. Some never travel north, some never camp, some never leave the city, which means much of Ontario's wilderness remains unseen, even by the people who live here. And then there's human behavior itself. Many hunters, campers, hikers, and outdoorsmen who experience something unusual in the wilderness never report it publicly. Some fear ridicule, others question what they saw themselves, and some simply choose never to speak about it again. And there may be another possibility. If intelligent beings have existed deep within these forests for generations, who's to say they wouldn't behave in ways familiar to us? Humans bury their dead. We protect our own. So perhaps the absence of remains doesn't necessarily point to absence at all, but to behavior we may not yet fully understand. Long before modern sightings, long before cameras, internet forums, or documentaries, Indigenous people across North America already spoke of beings living within the forests. For generations, long before European settlement, Indigenous people across North America told stories of forest beings. They didn't speak of legends, but neighbors, a people living alongside them across vast wilderness, both avoiding and occasionally interacting with human communities. In episode 2, we'll explore these teachings and oral histories, and how they connect with thousands of modern sightings happening every year. So why don't we find a body? Well, because Ontario is huge, because its forests are deep, because nature erases quickly, and because the places we don't go are far more vast than the places we do. My name is Vanka. This is Ontario Cryptids. Stay curious, stay open, and join me next time as we travel deeper into the mystery.